Hello, everybody, and welcome to 911 Wine Podcast. We are the podcast that Napa Valley didn't know they needed. I'm Hillary.
And I'm Chris. And if you're listening to us, it probably means that Hillary took your phone at a party and hit subscribe on 911 Wine Podcast. So for that, I apologize.
I like to think of it as my new party trick. So thank you to everyone for also rating 5 stars if I did happen to take your phone while you had had a few glasses of wine.
And lucky you, you're going to be treated to a really cool episode tonight, so stick with us.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the next episode of 911 Wine. We have some very special guests today, plural.
A father-daughter team. We have Jimmy Regusci and Alicia Regusci of the Regusci Winery. And they've been here for a few summers, third and fourth generation, respectively, here on this 86 acres of amazing winery.
That's
and
nice. You gave them
ranch.
an extra acre.
One extra. Hey, in the Stag's
We'll take
Leap
it.
District, that's pretty substantial. So, Jimmy, Alicia, thanks for
Welcome.
being
for
suckered in.
having us.
Joining us on this podcast.
It only, took me harassing for a long period of time per usual.
You're very persistent.
That is a great way to describe Hillary. Persistent
Like she's just
and energetic
Yeah.
in the best ways. Thank you, Hill. Good job setting us up. Okay, so I guess we usually ask our guests, what do you think we do on this podcast?
Well, I did not research, so I have no clue. I know that it ties into the St. Helena police logs, and I know that we're going to pour through a wine or two here as we go through. I mean, Hillary, I've known you since you were a baby. Marzoli, I've known you since I've seen you since you were a baby. And now I feel like the old guy sitting at a table doing a podcast with everybody grown up.
It's pretty
So
cool.
thank you guys for including us in this.
Oh,
This is very
yeah.
cool.
I feel
Thank
like
you,
you're
guys.
like a classic St. Helena name. Like you said, you knew us when we were growing up, and we knew you growing up, so it just seemed only natural.
Perfect.
Well, I think it's funny how this valley, there's a lot of families that have been here a long time. And it's funny because everybody's kind of intertwined, no matter if it's from Napa all the way to Calistoga, whether it be sports growing up, whether it be the fairs, whether it be whatever. But it's kind of that ag community, sports community that everybody ties together.
yeah,
So you always know everybody's kids and know who names are.
it's pretty
Yeah.
special.
Pretty cool.
For better or worse, heck yeah.
So we're going to be doing February police log,
Great.
February 2021, and then
Is this St. Helena Police Log?
St. Helena police log in all its
So-
glory.
So,
All its glory. So dogs barking and
Yes, a lot
mowers
of
going.
vicious
blowers
crime.
and okay.
so Jimmy, important question before we start. Have you ever been in the St. Helena Police Log?
Probably. Maybe not by name, but
No, I don't think I may. I don't know. It's been a long time. I don't think so, though.
Oh, darn. Okay.
I have been in the Napa one. Don't know if I made it to St. Helena.
Have you made the log, Alicia?
no. Of course not.
Alicia's like, of course not.
What about Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. Once again, not by name, but I can't
Yeah.
imagine him not being some sort of.
I mean, I've made the police
Yeah.
log, so
For what?
I lost a dog while dog sitting once.
Oh, so it was in the high crime rate
It was.
of the police log.
I found the dog, so
You know what we laugh about the police log being as kind of vanilla as it is and all the things, but you think about it's a pretty good community to live in.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know?
If we're complaining about leaf blowers, we got it good.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
absolutely. Well, who wants to start us off with the first one?
Well, speaking of it being low crime rate, I feel like this Tuesday, February 23rd report of a possible fight club kind of turns that one a little bit.
oh,
Wow.
Sounds dangerous.
at 1 p.m. on a Tuesday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not even 7 p.m. on a Friday.
It's not an
or-
evening. It's an afternoon.
Well, on the 10th, we could get back to true St. Helena. Police deliver quilts to Charter Oak Avenue. So, don't know if they knitted them or sewed them, but
Still
they delivered
unsure
them.
about that one.
Yeah, so I don't know what that one means.
Maybe
All
But
services
they have
provided.
a knitting club. You know how the cops sit there waiting to pull someone over? They're just in their cars knitting now, squares.
I'm sure that's it.
Well, isn't Miley Park? It's on Pope Street, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of near Charter Oak, and there was a report of 2 men sleeping or possibly passed out in the play structure.
at 3 p.m.
So maybe they just like got on the wrong street.
That's where the wine tasting tours drop people off.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parks in St. Helena. We had to research where
There
these places
are,
were.
for sure.
In the police log. Big deal. Here's another one. Wednesday, February 3rd, 1500, 3 o'clock. Someone asked a question about driving an ATV on the street. You guys know anything about driving four-wheelers, ATVs on the streets?
Not myself, but the kids. Actually, our family and my nephew, we've been in the police log in St. Helena. Now that I think about it. Yep. And it had to do with ATVs in town. So, yeah.
But now you guys drive ATVs here.
Yeah, but now they're four-wheelers, so they should be okay. The three-wheelers, what the kids were on.
That's why I'm such a poor bike rider, because we've been driving like ATVs for so long that I think I've forgotten completely how to ride a non-stationary
broke your
bike.
wrist growing up on a quad, right?
Leg.
Broke
My
your
shin.
So that was my mom's like story to me, to like whenever I was on one, like, Alicia broke something, so you need to be careful because that could happen to you.
Yeah, that one.
That one was a big break.
It was, yeah. I snapped my shin in half.
Yeah, I remember going down the end of the ranch. James came up on his little quad. I went down to the corner of the ranch, and Alicia's sitting there with her hands over her legs. She goes, "Daddy, I think I hurt myself." And she took her hands away, and the bones were almost coming out. And so we loaded her, went to the hospital, and I go, "How fast?" Oh, the hospital was great. They asked, we got to the hospital, and they're like, "Well, sir, what happened?" She gets in the hospital now, and the doctor comes and goes, "Well, what protective gear was she wearing?" And I went, "Flip-flops, shorts, and a tank top."
Then he's like, "Well, I think she was wearing shoes."
Yeah. And so then I went back and I asked Alicia how fast you were going. And Alicia's like, "Oh, I wasn't going that fast." And I picked up the bike and flipped it back over. It was in fifth gear. Okay. Yeah, on a straightaway. So it went about 45,
We were
50
timing
miles
how quick we could make it around the block.
Yeah, 40
one of the vineyard
or 20
blocks.
acre block. They were trying to loop it, see how fast it would take them.
I didn't make
Until
it to
we
the
got
end, so I have no idea the timing. I'm unsure.
Did you want to test it out after
No.
we're done here?
No.
If you didn't drive a four-wheeler 40 miles an hour in flip-flops, I don't think you really grew up in Napa. So,
I would
Yeah.
agree.
yeah, absolutely. So,
The truth is, if you're a little older, everybody has a scar on the back of their right or left calf because it was a
Yes, the
three-wheeler and you put your
exhaust.
Oh, the
foot down
exhaust.
and it ran you over.
oh, that, yeah. So, did you guys, obviously, you grew up riding around here.
Yeah, so Dad grew
yeah.
up here his
Okay,
whole life.
yeah.
So my great-grandfather is the one that purchased this property. And then generationally, we've all lived here forever.
When the kids were small, we lived in town.
For a little while, yeah.
Yeah, we lived in town for a while in St. Helena. And then, I went to school in St. Helena from here because in those days, you could go Napa or St. Helena, it didn't matter. A bus picked us up in Yountville. So I grew up in Yountville, so you go both ways. Then when Sissy, her mom, and everybody is from St. Helena. So it was kind of a natural. Sis and James went to St. Helena.
Yep. Cool. So, it was your grandpa that originally bought most of the farm, most of the ranch?
Yeah.
And it was in pasture before grapes, right?
Well, the whole
Or-
valley was pasture.
Give him
You
the
know,
rundown.
Let's hear it. Let's hear the history.
The history on our family. My grandfather, we are Swiss Italians.
Okay.
You know what's really funny with COVID going on? I have not told this story. Laura and I told the story today for the first time in a year.
Yeah.
We had people in, and so it's kind of like, wow, I'm telling the story again. It's kind of coming back to normal with the COVID and everything. So our story is my grandfather, we're Swiss Italian, a small village between Bellinzona and Locarno. And my grandfather and two brothers come over, and the two brothers end up staying in New York. My grandfather comes on to Napa by himself. He's 13 years old. He ends up working across the road at a dairy. So we're dairy people by trade. He ends up working at a dairy, and that's where Mondavi is now, on Mondavi Ranch over there. Then, as time went on, he ended up leasing the next ranch down across from Clodoval. And there's a big red hay barn there, or a feed barn. He built that barn, and that's where all my cousins and my dad and my aunt and all my first cousins were born on that ranch. And then he purchased this ranch in 1932. He cashed in his life insurance and purchased this 286 acres for $22,000. And the gentleman watched him grow up that owned the ranch, so he had no children, and it ended up it was the perfect scenario for our family to get this ranch. So then this ranch has two eras. One era of it is the Grigsby era, and the Grigsby era consists of the winery being built 1896. It consists of my aunt's house in the back and the house that I live in. My wife and I live in the main house. And then the ranch has that era of the Grigsby, and then it has the Regusci era. And the Regusci era was building the slaughterhouse, the hay barns, and the catch pens and stock pens. So we were that family that chased whatever ag commodity could be produced. We were property poor, is what it was, like a lot of people in this valley. They had a lot of land, but they were property poor. So then as grapes started, or then my dad and my grandfather converted to dairy, went from dairy cattle into beef cattle, and then built a slaughterhouse, the hay barns, and all that type of thing, and then moved from that into grapes. But prior to turning into grapes, we were that know your farmer, know your grower. The ranch produced, it had 11 milk trucks that would deliver dairy. It had the dairy barn, the dairy itself, had the slaughterhouse and a meat market. So it kind of had that whole combination. I mean, we tie a lot of that with the gardens and stuff and the heritage animals, and we tie a lot of that into our current story, but not in the way that it was actually true farming. And so then my dad converted everything in 1970. He leased out 120 acres across the road to Mondavi, and leased out 120 acres on this ranch to Clodoval. And so they developed this ranch out, and that's when all of this started to develop. So I was fortunate enough to be born in 67. So I caught the rise of grapes, because a lot of people don't realize that in our valley, cattle were still the number one ag commodity in 1969. Not grapes. So it's a weird one how, I mean, and the ag preserve is what's saved our world here as far as the development coming in. Because you talk to folks that are a little older than I am, I can remember the tail end of buses running up and down the valley, picking up the dads to work at Mare Island and Basalt. And, and if you take a bird's eye view of the valley, next door is a straight road with 6 houses on it. There's another cul-de-sac right down the road here with 12 houses. Where Satui is, White Lane, built out. So those were all the developments that were coming this way. So as time went on, our family converted from dairy to beef cattle and then into grapes. And then I was fortunate enough, when I graduated high school, then I started a farming company. Farming company grew. That was in 86. It grew. And then 10 years later, 96, wanted to start the winery side. So Dad and I started the winery side. The winery is one of the original gravity-fed buildings in the valley. It was built 1878. On its bond number, it is the third oldest in the valley.
It's like literally number 3.
Behind Behringer and Charles Crew?
I think that's who's ahead of us, yeah.
That's absolutely incredible. That's so cool.
I don't know. I look who's behind us, not in front of us.
Do you guys there's still gravity stuff in there?
We gravity from our second floor down. The way the building was originally designed, the bottom floor, the very bottom cellar floor is below ground. So the way it was designed is the third floor is horse and buggy buckboard would bring grapes up. It's buckboard height. You feed into the winery in boxes, crush on the third floor, gravity feed down to the second for fermentation, and then gravity feed from that down to the bottom for cellar aging. When we went back in the records on the winery, the most the building ever produced was 115,000 cases. And we put it in case form, right, in today's world. But in those days,
gallons.
everything went out in barrels.
The barrels, yeah.
Yeah, everything went either Napa River or Russian River and down to the city. That's how everything flowed out.
I think we should bring that back.
That's cool. Hey, Hillary just wants an excuse for a barrel of wine in her house. Don't let her fool you.
Go it down the river. I'll grab it on Pratt Avenue.
Yeah, exactly.
Roll it down to my parents' house. It'll be fine.
Well, at Tank, we have these photos of people. They're original photos. They're not made-up photos. They're old-time photos of like when they had the rumble seats. Yeah. They have a barrel in the rumble seat. And if the women of the era, how they dressed. And we have this great photo of 2 ladies filling up a barrel at a winery in the back of their rumble seat car and driving it somewhere.
That was Hillary's previous life.
Absolutely.
Clodoval, when my dad leased the ranch out to Clodoval started making wine in the 70s here. So we were winery ordinance and all that type of thing, and because they had already been fermenting and making wine. So then I was able to come in, and then as time went on, we've gone through the whole thing. And then in 17, it happened 17 with the fires that came through, but also in 17 we had just took 18 months to apply and got everything through for a winery modification. So we doubled our winery production, and we came into compliance with everything we have. So now we went from an old facility. We put in a live system for a wastewater treatment plant. So you have all of the green side of it with microorganisms, consumption, and processed water. It's like any ranch that's out of town. We have to do our own everything. We had to put in our own water treatment plant for water coming in. So there's all these kind of bells and whistles. And so this family now is to the point where all permits are done, all reconstruction is done, so everything is set to go forward.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's kind of where the winery sits, and that's how our story.
Nice. Awesome. You've done that a few times.
What's that?
That was good. I've done that a few times. But the cool part about that old winery,
I can't take a breath.
Yeah.
it says Occidental on the side, right? And that means what, west facing, right?
It's west facing, yes.
Yeah.
And it has two tie-ins to this. Grigsby, the family, he was part of the Bear Flag Revolution, or the bear flag raising in Sonoma and that type of thing. And he came over here via oxen through Kentucky. That's how he got here.
It took a while.
Hillary played the Oregon Trail in school.
So did I. Don't you judge that? That's the best
And-
game.
Great at that game.
So they can relate. So,
I can relate to that.
In the computer lab.
yeah.
so
What else was I
he came
supposed to
over
do
in
with
the,
that?
okay.
Yeah, so
Yep.
it
Aging
goes way
yourself,
back
guys.
in his world,
Yeah.
tying in.
That's good. So they did make wine there, and so I mean, obviously 1890s, but there was a lot of wineries back in 1890s
Yeah.
until phylloxera and then Prohibition and
The Great Depression.
And
What's an odd one is I think there were 300 or 400 wineries in the 1800s. This winery is the third oldest in the valley. Wow. And this is third oldest. And I believe from Prohibition to 1970, no new winery had built except Mondavi was the
Mondavi,
first
right.
winery.
Yep.
That's a big span.
yeah,
It's a pretty
quite
big
a
span.
setback. So
Yeah. So you think about it, everything could have been much different.
yeah,
At the end of Napa, we had a military base. We had a major steel manufacturer. We had a lot of things that this whole thing could have been much different.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
we got lucky. Yeah,
well, I think
and hopefully we can keep it.
I think lucky was one part of it, but I also think it was important. Our forefathers were smart enough to see it coming and lay the groundwork to protect it.
Yeah, they saw what happened in
Yeah,
Orange County.
and it a lot of times I'm still just a dirt farmer, and it pisses me off when I'm told that I can't do something on my right hand, and then I look around and I realize this is all open because of some of these regs.
Right.
So on my left, it's that you got to give and take on it.
Sure,
Yeah.
interesting. So how has it been being the fourth generation coming in and helping out and being a part of it?
It's been good. I mean, I always knew that I would do like something in the wine industry. I wasn't sure what, and I feel like I've dabbled in almost every single part of it at this point. I mean, not every single part, but a lot of it. I mean,
Since he started, I remember your first job in the wine business has to be, besides
Was
working here,
Darjush.
was Darjush. Cool. We developed a vineyard for Darjush, and Darjush started actually for Alicia was the first intern in market or in sales in that for Darjush.
I wasn't even 21 yet, so I
Yeah.
didn't. Well, I was like 20, I think, and so they just had me kind of doing the behind the scenes stuff, which was cool. So and they're amazing when it comes to customer service and their concierge service and everything, and they're completely different from us here. So it was a good experience to kind of see how they run their show over there. And then after that, I worked a harvest for Camus.
With Camus.
Uh-huh.
Cool. And then you were at T-Vine.
Yeah, I've been in the tasting rooms. I've done sales. I don't know. I've kind of been all over the place. So
You're
still
very
trying
well-rounded.
to. I mean,
Very cool.
hopefully. But it's been good. I mean, big shoes to fill. But I think the goal for all of us, and that's been instilled in us, is to just kind of pass it on. So be able to like take what we have, make it better, and then keep the next generations wanting to do the same thing. Like we don't anticipate this place going anywhere. So we're
sure.
like, we want to just keep it.
Yeah, because it's you and your brother James.
It is,
Yep,
yeah.
that's
And then
it.
my two boys right
Yep.
now, John and Will. So John's 5 and William is 3. So there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Well, the thing
We're all
is, the
over
way I look at generational properties, no one has the right to sell it. You have a right to use it, make a living off of it,
not cash in
and
on
pass
what
it on.
everyone else did for you
Yeah,
for the last.
because my grandfather didn't
totally.
cash in, my dad didn't cash in. I don't have the right. My kids don't have the right. Their kids don't have the right.
Cool.
Well, this is our home.
It's good.
Yeah.
You know?
And you'd never want to,
I was
and
gonna say,
we'll
you
get
probably
back,
wouldn't
or
want
get back.
to.
You know, yeah.
Well, you look around at our neighbors now. Everyone in the world wants to live here, and the way I always say it, for me, it's pretty simple. Unbeknownst to my grandfather, he bought in the right location. My dad was able to hold on to it through the hard times, and our neighborhood did well. Because we were dirt poor farmers. We had a lot of property poor. We had a lot of land, but no income off of it. You know, we came off of leases with Mondavi. Those leases were my dad leased in the 70s, $333 an acre is what all those leases were. That goes from here. Behringer leased all that ground on Big Ranch Road. Everything was 300, 330, 350, 500 tops, an acre. You know, and a lot of them weren't even percentage based or nothing, because who knew?
Yeah.
It was just
renting the land and
it
get
was
what you
just
could for it. And
yeah.
that's it, yeah.
So
Well, it was probably still more than you could make from cattle, though, at that point.
probably
Yeah. What did you guys plant first
Well,
off here when you transitioned from cattle and meat to?
Well,
We
there
had
was,
some vines.
yeah,
The
well,
Zinfandel.
well, there was Zinfandel here from the 1800s. That block in the front here is still part of the 1800, part of the original planting.
Yeah.
And then there was another 8-acre block of that Zin out. We call it's our block 2. We call it now. It was 8 acres of Zin, but all the kids, we learned how to drive D2 in that block. So there was so many missing vines. It was unbelievable.
Chris, can
Wow.
you relate to that?
Well, looks like you're speaking my language.
Yeah.
My dad will probably listen to this and be like, "Yeah, he's hit a couple too."
Well, my dad and my uncle used to plow that by horse.
Wow.
So, you know,
That's cool.
It's kind of weird when you start looking back.
And they've made it this far. It's really cool.
Yeah, I kind of think it's cool. I mean, I'll be a discant or something. And it's like, this is how we make our living. You know, it's kind of amazing. A buddy of mine, Alicia was talking earlier, that came to work for us. He was a butcher in Calistoga for 30 years. He told me the other day, he goes, you know, I drove up and down this valley for all those years and looked at vineyards. And he goes, I always wondered, what the hell? Why don't you just spray all that grass? You know, why do they take so much time and all this? He said, I never really paid attention. Now he's in the middle of, down by the river, middle of a couple hundred acres, and he's mowing. And he's like, my God, I didn't realize what the cover crops mean. There's birds, there's rabbits, there's bugs, there's everything. He goes, it's teeming with life. He goes, I would have never thought I'd said that. But most people, I think, just drive up and down and don't realize what actually goes on. Yeah. And the thought of, every cover crop is done for a reason, whether it be environmental, whether it be for grape production.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
with it just being mustard season, someone asked me, they're like, do they just plant that because it's pretty? I'm like,
Yeah. No, there's a reason behind it.
not exactly. I
You
mean,
know.
yes, it makes some great Instagram pictures for the tourists, but
On our way to school, I asked John, I'm like, what's that called? And I'll be like, it's mustard. I'm like, what else is it? He's like, cover crop.
Nice.
starting
I'm like,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, you might as well teach them what it is.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm like, if it's in between a vineyard, what is it? Cover crop.
And now you have the woolly weeders or the sheep up on the hill, helping out with
Noah's Ark up here.
Noah's Ark.
Yeah. Well, when the fires burned through our ranch, like everybody's ranches in 17,
Yeah.
one thing that we had as a family we didn't pay attention to was all of our backland, and I think everybody in general hadn't paid attention to it. So after 17, it burned through. Now we rotate. We have 7 paddock. We rotate animals through every single year, knock the crop, the fire danger down, and the hazard down, and it makes a big difference. The sheep side of it, we've used for years now. We probably run maybe 600 head on Kuvasan, and they do a nice job on that ranch. And then we've moved them through a lot of different ranches. Here, they're not for vineyard application; it's only for fire application.
Cool. And you guys absolutely saved your own winery with the help of Matt Hardin and friends. And
Well,
you
yeah, we have
during the 17
There's a
fire.
very nice group of people that
Yeah.
showed up here when the fire started.
That's incredible. Yeah.
Protected.
The story of that night, which I think you make a wine. Was it Brave Night?
Yeah,
Right?
we make a wine. It's called Brave Night out of that. That was a unique night. Our family's very fortunate. And someone said to me one day, they're like, "You're really lucky, you guys made it through the fire." And it's like, you know what? I don't want to be cocky.
You were here.
No, it wasn't all luck. One of them was we had equipment, we had people, and we had people that didn't leave.
Yeah.
And that's what it ended up being. It was family and labor that was here, and we pushed it back. And that group that did it that night, there's no question. We were finished here with this ranch, and then we moved out that night and went south I went south, and Jason Lawrenson and Matt Hardin, they went north and started backfires, and that's what saved the 3 ranches north. And our savior was High Demand. It's a company. It's Matt Weiner.
Okay.
He came in with a D8 that night, and that's what was the key to save it. I still have vineyards that are ripped out from it, but we're going through. We finished permit process for that, but he saved our property that night.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was a group effort between the kids and and people showing up.
Yeah.
It was a unique
Hell of
night.
a story, man.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of fires,
Oh,
this police log over here.
we can't pay for a transition that good.
I know.
Wow.
It's not a vineyard or anything, but report of a package on fire in a Main Street driveway.
I think we know the story behind this. Well, this was the wine box on fire on Pratt and 29.
It was.
What?
Box
I don't
of
know what we're
wine
talking
on
about.
fire.
Really?
Chris
Yeah.
sits at home all day. He does not work, and he listens to a police scanner
Yeah.
just to find us content. This is why I picked
my-
him as my
yeah.
co-host.
It's
I mean, I appreciate that.
But
one of my
he-
4 jobs that really gives me the most return on investment.
You know, the best one that I'm going through this police log, is February 14th. Normally it would be a Saturday night. This what I'm going to read right here has to repeat over and over in generations.
Just a copy and paste.
No, if you juveniles were doing jumps on their bikes in the cemetery, they left after being asked not to do that. I mean, I don't know what the attraction is, but it's like a magnet. Every kid goes to the cemetery in town. Yeah.
Well, I think it's like far enough from downtown, but not close enough where you won't get in trouble.
And
for
kind of
going
creepy
that
enough
far.
just to be
Yeah.
fun.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
definitely.
If anyone
For
lives
sure.
in the Sylvana area, that's like your place to play.
Can I?
Playground-
Do you know why they
playground.
build a fence around the cemetery?
Dad,
No,
stop. Dad.
People dying to get in.
Dad, stop!
No, that's one of those jokes that I said.
I died laughing.
Since they were
Pun
kids.
intended.
It's a running joke.
God, that's
It's
amazing.
it's so. Now you're gonna look around though, and there are fences around all cemeteries.
Because people are dying to get in there.
No, I get it, but I'm just saying. I mean, it makes sense.
Well, speaking of those high schoolers, reported 5 or 6 cars. This is on Friday, February 5th at about 4 o'clock, just after school let out. 5 or 6 cars with loud mufflers racing around Grayson and Crane. Who could that be?
I don't know, but they probably got their Cadillac converters stolen. That's why they were loud.
There has been a run of catalytic converter theft in St. Helena. It's
There
been a big
has.
problem.
The best thing the other night, I was at a buddy's house in Napa, and the loudest car you've ever seen came driving by, and we were listening to it coming down the road. As it passed us, it was a Prius. And they had stolen the Cadillac. It was like, sounded like a train. I just thought it was ironically funny.
It is.
Well, this wasn't a Cadillac converter, but report of an aggressive driver passing erratically, yelling at pedestrians on Main Street. The vehicle was last seen on Pope Street heading towards Silverado Trail. This was at 9 in the morning.
Perfect.
Never to be seen again.
That's intense. Saturday, February 6th, a little Saturday evening party at 1900, 7 o'clock. Multiple callers reported fireworks in the southern area of town. Police found the fireworks and made sure they were off before leaving the area. That's a weird way
How
to
do
describe
you
fireworks.
Turn a
But
firework
Make
off.
sure they lit them off. No, just
I don't know. And then
They took them home to their own kids.
And then a half hour later, 2 dogs got loose from Allison Pope area during the fireworks. Cause and effect.
Cause and effect.
I feel like this was a very water-heavy log.
Oh, okay.
Like, I don't know. I feel like I've seen a few that are water-oriented, but of course now they say that I can't find the water one. Oh,
Well, there was a car that hit.
there
hit red.
was. But this one is water wouldn't stop flowing from the sink at a men's bathroom in the park.
Uh-oh.
It's unfortunate.
in the midst of a shortage.
Yeah.
And then a car
Seriously.
on Madrona
Yeah.
hit a
Fire hydrant.
fire hydrant. That was a
Do you think
I
that's
saw
why
that
we're
photo online.
on
big.
water rationing?
problem for sure.
Just because of that?
No,
car?
you're on water rationing because St. Helena has never built their dam up. It's pretty simple.
We should probably get on that.
We should.
We should probably get on
And how much
that.
damage was done up at Bell Canyon due to the fire? Was there a lot of damage up there? I don't.
I don't know, it burned through there.
Yeah, I went ripped through it. I just
No,
don't know how
but
much.
Bell Canyon, they were supposed to raise that before my kids were born. So they're on track.
By the time John retires,
Yeah.
you're gonna have it done.
Maybe he'll put it in.
Yeah. Well, what are we drinking tonight, guys?
Oh, we are drinking Patriarch, actually.
Cool.
Patriarch is one of our wines that actually gives. We have We do all the Bordeaux varietals in our area here, no question. And then Patriarch is one of the wines that kind of encompasses the whole. It's a blend every year, proprietary blend we do. This one, I think, 15%?
It's Cab and Merlot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think 18% on the Merlot.
Cool.
We have years that Cab Franc will be in it. We have years that, it depends, Syrah. It just depends what the blend needs. And it's a nice blend because we have couple of vineyard block designations. And this kind of gives you an overall feel of the entire piece of property.
Cool. Nice. Right on. So Patriarch, you have I'm assuming, a matriarch?
No.
No.
Maybe that could be the next one.
No, matriarch is taken by Bond.
Oh,
Yeah.
of course.
Hardin
That's
has
right.
matriarch.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So,
What are some other?
well, what we have is we did for the fires in 17. We did a brand. We were talking about those earlier. We did a brand called Brave Night as a tribute to everyone who had come that night, and thank you and that. And then we have our Cabernet. We have our regular estate cap. All the wines you have at Regusci are, if you come in, are estate grown. The only ones that are not, but we grow them on our farming company side, is our Chardonnay and our Rosé. Both of those come out of Canaris.
Cool.
And so we have Cab, Merlot, and we produce about 500-600 cases of Zinfandel. And we produce Zin because it's always been here. It's always been tied to the winery. And over the years, everybody's removed any Zin they've had here. So we're the last ones with Zinfandel.
Yep.
So it's and for this Zin here, it's a nice Zin. It's an easy. I don't care for Zinfandel personally as a varietal, but it's a nice drinking Zin, and it's one of those ones where all of our wines are direct to consumer. Everything we produce is direct to consumer, and it's one of those wines that sells out of us pretty quickly. So it's a nice following. It's a nice.
And it's so old. It's probably a field blend, right? So you talked
it's
about
a field blend on half of it, and that we plant out of the old stuff, and then we blend it with the other block of Zinfandel. It's 17, 18 years old. So that's the blend that comes into that.
Cool.
So it's kind of a nice combination between the old and the new for us.
Nice.
It gives us some freshness out of it. And then we kind of move up our world. We go to the Madrona. It's a blend. It's normally a 50-50 blend, Cab and Merlot. And we've kind of named these wines, like Patriarch is after my grandfather. And then the iconic, our flagship wine, Madrona, is after my nonny. And then as we kind of move up, then we have a couple of block wines that we call them our block designate wines. Block 27, Block 3 are two different wines we make.
Elders.
What's that?
The Elders.
Oh, the Elders. Elders is a nice kind of overall easy drink wine that we produce. And then it moves up the ladder to the Angelos. And the Angelos comes off of the Hillside Vineyard up here on the top. That's kind of our flagship wine.
100% Hillside Cab.
Yeah.
What is your favorite that you guys make?
I don't know. I think it depends on
What
what
you're
it's
eating?
for. I mean, this wine specifically, I think, is really approachable, which is nice. Like even when we pour it in the tasting room, unless you're like a big cab lover, a lot of our wines are kind of heavier, I would say. Then this one's a little bit more of a blend. So I think a bigger variety of people can enjoy this. Like if you were to bring it to a dinner party or something like that.
Yeah. The wines you find in the Stag's Leap area are approachable younger. For the most part, they'll hold 15, 20 years without a problem, but you can approach them younger. It's like when people do blind tastings. If you do a blind tasting, there's a reason why we have American viticulture, AVAs, throughout the valley. If you do a blind tasting, the way we like to do them is all of Stag's Leap, or all the wines out of Stag's Leap. And then if we're gonna blind taste Mount Veeder, we'll do Mount Veeder. If we're gonna do Rutherford, we spread them, we do them. I believe every one of these AVAs there's good wines in these AVAs, and there's a couple dogs in them, no question. But even the dogs are better than the rest of the country. But those wines have a similar thread that runs through them. So if you try through, I think we're at 17 wines coming out of Stag's Leap wineries, maybe more, I'm not sure.
No, yeah, we were at 19, I think.
Maybe 19,
I mean, there's a,
yeah.
a good handful that are in
So,
the
but although
association.
I was up to 17, I've tried all 17 on when we're done. I missed a few on the add-ons now, but all of those wines are decent wines, good wines, and great wines. But they all have a common thread that runs through them. But when you try against, say, Mount Veeder or Spring Mountain, those wines are beautiful in their own right. So they have a profile. So I always look at it as apples and oranges. It could be cab, but it's still apples and oranges. You know.
Well, and especially in Stag's Leap District, you guys have done a great job at like promoting that AVA, and I mean, you guys have probably one of the best.
Thank you.
AVA associations I've seen. I mean, you guys, because you even do a combined like sales thing every year where everyone puts some wine in and you sell it for the AVA.
Yeah, so it's our Appellation Collection is
Cool.
what it's called.
Nice.
So you can go and purchase the Appellation Collection, which is a bottle from each of the, not every single winery in the district participates in it, but a majority of them do.
Yeah.
And so there's a bottle of wine from each of those wineries. So some of them, it's very difficult to get. So if you buy this whole pack, you get that vintage from all the wineries participating.
So cool.
very
Are you involved?
Alicia's been on the
In
board. How
board?
many years?
Cool.
A couple times. So I just got off the board, and they just brought in a new set of people.
Cool.
Because you serve 2 years on and off.
got
So
it.
I've done 2, I don't know what it would be called. 2 rounds.
Two terms.
Like,
2
yeah.
terms, yeah. And I was like, there's a word for this,
You
and I'm
turned
not
out.
thinking of it.
Turned out. You've reached your
Yeah.
term limits, and no, I do. I'm on the Rutherford Dust Society
Yeah.
one, so it's similar. You know,
Well,
it's
Rutherford
cool.
Dust is one of those other ones.
Yeah.
I mean, that branding of Rutherford Dust, when you hear the term Rutherford Dust, you try the wines, you instantly you have that feeling of it. I mean, that's a good tagline. There's no question.
It's great.
But even if you try, and the one thing though that like Stag's Leap now is a unique one when you say when you start looking at it, it hasn't been. There's you got Schaefer, you got a few iconic big brands out of here, and that are in here. But at the most part, all of us are pretty large landowners. So there's only 2,200 acres of Stag's Leap fruit, and between Regusci, Mondavi, Stag's Leap, everybody's couple hundred acres. So you don't have, and most of it is all made in house. Up until a few years ago, you didn't make a lot of wine out. So now you have Clos de Vol on Herondale, that front of this ranch, they're selling to other high-end wineries. And so it's kind of nice because now you're getting expressions of these wines by a multitude of different high-end winemakers. So it's kind of a nice, and the price point of Stag's Leap is all, I mean, the first time I ever sold a bottle of Zinfandel for $50, my dad walked in the tasting room and he looked at me and he goes, damn, I used to haul a ton of Zinfandel grapes, hand-picked in boxes to San Francisco for $50 delivered. Wow. So think about his view of that.
That's wild.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And I mean, even now, the base price out of Stag's Leap is 10.
Yeah.
And I farm a lot of ground in Solano County, and it's just one step over the line drops you.
Yeah.
It's
50% easy. I'm probably more than that.
1,800, 2,000.
Wow. Oh my God.
But they're excellent wines. Well, that's why Camus moved into Solano.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question. It's good growing ground, no question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting.
Wow.
We have a nice thing built in this valley. Yeah. And I don't think there's another ag community that has a complete industry built around it that has multiple tentacles. You have the hospitality side. You have hotel. We have limo. We have all of these components. That infrastructure is here. Where else can you go in the country and say, I want a 3-star, 4-star dinner in the middle of that field and there's zero infrastructure and you can rent it all. And everybody that is involved in putting that on makes a living doing it.
Yep.
I mean, it's pretty incredible when you kind of break
It's
it
like
down.
what Hillary always says about what it's like to live in Napa Valley. You have a
It's
tagline.
the only place you can get stuck behind a limo or a tractor. A
Fair
limo
enough.
of famous people or a tractor
Yeah.
Perfect.
with like
Yeah.
a farmer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
I dig
Which
it.
is so true.
It is. 100%.
Yeah.
Or an ATV that's driving on the street in the middle of San Diego.
Yeah. With a case of beer on the front of it.
Heading to Anna's.
Man. Well, this wine is
No,
fantastic.
they were only 12. They couldn't get in, Anna's.
Man. But anyway, this is really good. Really amazing wine.
Well, thank you.
That's, and who does the winemaking?
Well, our winemaker, it's a unique one for our world. My winemaker for 20 years was Charles Hendricks.
Okay.
Charles started making wine around the area. Charles has been a great winemaker, and I grew up with Tiffany Tenario, who's his business partner. So Tiffany and Charles, and we all worked together, and they worked here. And then Charles started building his brand pretty well. It's called Hope and Grace. So
It's in Yountville.
It's in
Yes.
Yountville.
Yeah,
Seen it,
I'm
yeah.
familiar with
So
that.
he and Tiffany had built a bigger brand as it went on, and then it got to the point that Charles he wanted to focus more on his own brand. So then at that time, I got to add in is I knew when I started how to make wine and grow grapes. Easy enough. I could get that done. The first vintage, my dad was the winemaker for me for the first vintage. Cool. And it was funny. The only reason I went to my dad and I had ran out of money, and I said, "Hey, I bought all my equipment and everything. I go, I need a winemaker. I didn't budget one. I need you to get it to zero." So my dad made the first vintage, got it to zero. My dad came to me and he goes, I don't want to screw this up. There's too much new equipment, I don't want to screw this up. So that's how Charles started with us. And Charles was like another kid to my dad. Yeah. So went on from there. And then as time went on, Bertus von Seal started working with us under Charles. And by James Cole Winery down the road, he started. I'm going to back up. I knew how to grow grapes and make wine. That's it. I didn't know how to sell wine, right? So I had inventory backing up, and I met this guy out of Wilson Daniels. His name's James Hardin. And if you're familiar with Wilson Daniels, one of the premier marketers of the day and all that type of stuff.
They're
James,
picking our podcast up soon.
They are. They think they're going to be sponsors.
yeah. So James was VP of marketing for them. He jumped out on his own. I gave him an office here, and we started a little brand together called 20 Bench.
Okay.
And that grew to a couple 100,000 cases for us. So James and I had that going, and that worked out really well. And as time was going on, we ended up selling that brand. And we sold that brand and a few other brands off, and we started what we called Farm Collective. So we had Regusci, James Cole, and a number of these other brands all marketed across the country together. So then we started becoming a direct-to-consumer model. And so we started backing down that. Charles then went to work on his own brand. Bertus von Seal came in and started working with us. So he made I think he made 5 vintages for us. And then he and Charles and Bertus made three or four by himself. And then then we decided by that time we had to add T-Vine Winery up in Calistoga. We bought the brand, and then we built the facility for it. We used to pour it out of here. Then we opened up the Tank Wine Garage up there. So we have those 2 brands and kind of tied in. So that was the whole collective. And then James and I decided after 20 years, we had the best partnership together and we had the best partnership separate. So now we decided, we sat down, and this is the way you split up a company. We just sat there and talked to each other, and he took Tank Wine Garage and the production facility, and I took T-Vine.
Cool.
So we split our company up, and so now my family has T-Vine, and we run T-Vine Regusci, and then the kids have their brands with Matthew Wallace and Four Doors and that type, and Matt with Caterwall.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how our world's gone. And so we have T-Vine up there, and then we have Regusci, and then Bill Noncaro used to be a winemaker for Duckhorn. He and Bertus were basically Farm Collective grew and grew. So Bertus went with James Hardin and was making wine for there, and then Bill's been our winemaker now for 4 years.
Yeah, a little while now.
I think 3 or 4 years.
Nice.
So we've had the same winemaker for 20, and then with Bear and Bill. And what's funny is everybody still sees each other, gets along, and we are fortunate. We've been doing this long, and anyone who has moved on, most people don't move. If I look at people who've been with us 30 years, I think there's 8 people who've been with me 30 years. And then that 25-year range, are probably 20. And then 20-year range got to be about 40.
Wow.
So all of our guys have been here. We're really deep in how long people have been
And
here.
That
treat
is
people
like
well.
the highest compliment someone can pay you. It's
Yeah,
like sticking
stay
around.
around.
Yeah.
Because that shows that people are happy and
Yeah.
No, I don't know. It's pretty much, it's
health
pretty
insurance
interesting
is
how
good,
our world
you know?
works.
One of the
It
two.
is-
have good
There's probably some free wine involved at some point,
Yeah.
I'm sure. So you got a good deal on it.
I've been fortunate, though, because Jason Lawrenson runs our farming operations. He's been here 16, 18 years. And Jason runs the farming side. I mean, just like everything we have has really good people involved. Wouldn't you say, sis?
Yeah, I
mean,
totally agree.
Every part we have, we're deep. They've been here a long time and that type of thing.
Cool.
So it's kind of good.
I like it.
Can't complain.
And you guys have a beautiful spot, and tastings here are really cool. I mean, you get to sit out right in front of the winery.
Yeah,
I've been here
come
once
visit,
for it. It's
call
so
our
cool.
tasting room, or go online to our website.
Yeah, please
Make a
do.
reservation. All of our seating right now is outside due to COVID. But even without
That's the
COVID, to be
perfect
honest,
weather.
like right now,
where you wanna be.
rolling into the summer,
Yeah.
I mean, we have so many spots on the ranch that we can host outside, and it's just stunning. So
Yeah, we have a
really
garden
good
terrace.
spot.
We have a garden terrace area, and it's
Patio.
funny. Yeah, my wife has the garden side, and Laura has the gardens, and for the ranch, that's her world of doing those. And everybody always compared us to the French Laundry. The gardens and the French Laundry. Lo and behold, they're building a hotel in the French Laundry. So I kind of
that whole
That
they sold that
garden
garden.
sold.
That's
yeah,
right.
that's sold.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at that. It's like, okay, they compared us to that. Now that's gone. That's pretty good.
It's you.
Yeah. So
Yeah, you've got some talent there, Jim Batcher.
Yeah,
Jimmy
Jimmy
Gardner, right? Yeah,
Jimmy Batcher.
He is got the green thumb of green thumbs, man.
Well, Jimmy Batcher went all through school with you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's a little
yeah.
nice.
I was gonna say he's a little older.
To be a
but-
little older.
Between us, yeah.
But
So, what was St. Helena like when you grew up? Let's talk. Let's go back to old school St. Helena.
Wow. Well, first of all,
Yeah.
the town that's changed the most for me in this valley is Yountville, by all means. It used to be, bars and brothels for the veterans home.
we still have ponchos.
Well, yeah.
There'll always be fun.
But there were a bunch.
No, there were 30. The
Right?
old saying is there were 33 bars and 3 brothels in that town. And that's just really what it was. Because when you think
Right?
about it, well, there was a Stone Bridge
Yeah.
and the Stone Bridge in St. Helena. There
Oh,
was a brothel there.
Con Valley, right?
Yeah, right there on the top.
Yeah.
A cute story. My grandma told me about that.
Wait,
Cute stories. No,
No, actually, this is a cute story about a brothel. And I'll tell you that one
you've
first.
got to finish this.
No, the brothel one that's funny about that is my nanny, right? I'll never forget her telling me this story. There was an old man older gentleman who used to come and pick up all the eggs in the valley. He would start in Napa and pick up all the eggs at the ranches, and he rode horse and buggy picking them up. So he'd go pick up all the eggs and everything. So he got polio. So he had polio. So his wife took the route, and his wife was going picking up eggs and everything. The horse got to St. Helena, and instead of turning left, it went up to Stone Bridge and parked itself and waited for a rest. You never heard the story? It parked itself and waited for a rest. And and the lady knew my nanny, and she said, "I couldn't make it leave for an hour." The horse
like,
wanted
this
to-
is my route. This is where I take
this
a
is where I
break.
take a
This is where I
break.
hang out.
But it's funny, the town of Yountville, because Yountville was a
good.
VA town because of the veterans. Veterans Home is the largest veterans home in California. So all the vets used to be there. And so growing up there, it was like the movie Porky's. You went to that town, there were bars everywhere, and it was incredible. But what ended up happening is the liquor licenses of that town, because of all the bars, they stay geographic. So what happened was all those restaurants would not have had the first restaurant in Yountville was Sally Schmidt, which was the Chutney Kitchen. That was the hub of food mecca. Wine was separate from food. She was the first one to ever cook for the auction or for the wine business. And then she built that, and then she moved and bought the French Laundry. That's who Thomas bought that from, was Sally. And the town kind of grew, so Sally and their family moved to Philo. And now it's to the apple farm, and they do classes, and now it's happening in Philo. Wherever that family goes, it follows.
Great things follow.
Yeah, so the reason why all the restaurants were able to prosper is they need a liquor license. So 33 bars, 33 liquor licenses. Every place you see a liquor license from those days, it was a restaurant. You wouldn't have thought about it. No more brothels, but
And the town was primed for people building and having, and it was.
yeah, but it's kind of screwed up when a town. I went to school in the city hall, the old city hall, and to me, it's kind of sad that a town had to sell its school. There's no more school left.
Yeah.
All the farm kids and all local kids used to go to that school, and now it can't. There's not enough kids in town.
Yeah.
So I look at Yountville, great, wonderful, but it did push itself to kind of just become a tourist destination.
Do you think that's a warning for like the rest of the valley? I mean, obviously it works for.
No,
Yountville,
I don't think it's
but-
a warning. I think they did a great job of it. St. Helena has been a dog forever.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at opening up a Tank Wine Garage in St. Helena, but it's so difficult with the business atmosphere there. I went to Calistoga.
Sure.
And that's kind of, St. Helena is a difficult one. So I think, if they get more lodging and all that, but it's always been kind of that.
It's always been that, yeah.
It's kind of hard to have a business when it rolls up at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
So St. Helena is a great town, no question. It was a lot different though, as far as when my kids were small. One thing, you knew everybody. The other thing is, whether it was the cops, the fire department, whoever it was, all of those families. My kids went to school with the police officers' kids. And that I think is different now. Now there's no more police officers that raise their families and stuff. So I think it's a lot different, no question. It used to be you knew everyone it's the same old Americana town. You knew everybody in town, and it changed.
Yeah.
But on the same token, it's prospered very well. The way I kind of look at it. It's a hard one. Change is hard.
Yeah, it's a tough balance to strike.
A very tough balance. But St. Helena it's changed a lot, like every other little American town. But it's done a nice job to keep itself what it always was when you really think about it. Because you go down through town, you look at the old buildings and names on them and that, and they all tie into families that are still here for the most part.
And we've kept our crime.
Yeah,
It hasn't changed much, really. Do you think the crime was different 50 years ago?
No, probably the same as it is now without the blowers.
Someone
Yeah.
was receiving offensive text messages, which wouldn't have happened 50 years ago.
Valid
The,
point.
the police, what their guidance was to block the number.
Why wouldn't you?
They're like, look, I know you're calling us, but
But we have a tip for you. Block. That was it. That was the end of the crime.
But we even know that your horse could get you in trouble 100 years ago, so now it's just your phone. So instead of saving that destination in your horse's brain, now it gets saved in your,
no
your
kidding.
phone. I know we can still get an equally amount of trouble.
I always like that story though when my nanny told me that. I remember looking at her like, I had to think for a little bit, like, okay, brothel, what's that?
that's how he
know.
got in trouble.
Yeah.
The horse.
That's how we got in trouble. I always think about it. What about when she got home? Poor bastard had polio. He couldn't run.
Oh my goodness.
No, honey, I'm home. Yeah, I bet you are. What's that movie where they put the 2x4, but the
Yeah.
Bates?
Yeah, Bates Motel. Oh my god.
I don't-
Oh, what
I'm
else
gonna
we got,
say,
Helen?
I don't know if this isn't in the log. I don't know if
Yeah.
we want to talk about it, so we can cut this out. But so the vet's home, speaking of Yountville, had some craziness go on
It
recently.
did.
But they didn't
Yeah.
even. Well, explain what it is first.
They had a
So-
false active shooter.
Yeah.
Like 2
Which
weeks
is really
ago.
scary.
Yeah.
Very scary,
Which-
but it turned out it was nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
At all.
At all. Someone walking with a broom or something.
Yeah, pretty impressive though. Did you see the response that day?
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Massive.
But
kind of-
understandably, since
Oh,
what
bet your ass
happened last time,
understandably.
like,
Yeah.
I mean, good for them for.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you want to share though the physical description of the possible shooter?
I do. It was a
woman in a
middle
par-
age. It was a
Yeah.
young to middle aged, red hair in scrubs, 5'6",
Hillary!
medium build.
Did you go to the veterans home?
Were you there?
You know, it was not me. But I had friends because we all have the
mean-
scanner apps on our phones. So
Did they call you to wonder if
We're
it was
all
you?
listening. So my one friend was like, "You might want not
Hillary.
go outside today. Like maybe just
Don't wear scrubs today. It's gonna be frowned upon.
Hey, you want to meet me at the
That's
golf course for
amazing.
lunch?
I'm gonna be in my work clothes."
She would have
That's
gotten
okay, right?
tackled for sure.
What do they look
Yeah,
like?
you would have
I mean,
been in the thing.
You would have
Wow.
been.
Yeah, stop carrying a broom around.
You ever thought about Napa Valley though, when you jump above and look up, right? When you think about this, we are in. Alicia alluded to it with we live in a bubble. Okay, you go to. I mean, think about first of all, our kids playing sports. We're the farthest south playing sports is St. Helena. The farthest north is Fort Bragg. So we play every single team in the Emerald Triangle. As
Yeah.
you go up. All right. So that's that side of 101 going up. Then you go to this side and you take a look, and we've got all the meth and everything that comes out of Lake County. Right?
Great quality.
Yes.
Well, no, the crime rates, everything else. Just look.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying bad, but it's reality.
They have a way better police log than we do.
Right. And
Yes.
then you drop down on the other side of us. You drop down on the other side down to you got Vallejo and Richmond, and you've got some of these big cities that have a lot of crime. All of the drugs and all the weed and everything that moves from the north only comes down Silverado Trail, Highway 29, 101, or 1.
Right.
It's the 4 corridors, right? I'm still always amazed that it passes through here. It has to. And we do not, our law enforcement does a pretty damn good job when you really think, we laugh about the police log and all that. Law enforcement does a pretty good job when you think about
Keeping
it.
those things.
Yeah,
out,
and I think it's the sheriff department is the most because they're on the outskirts. They're not in the cities, you know? So I kind of look at that and you laugh and joke, but it's like, think about what's there and how that product gets from there to there. It's got to come through our world.
Yeah, that's,
You know.
that's a good point.
That is like another one of my mom's famous taglines, because sometimes I will walk home from a dinner party or something, you know, right in town, and like it's a few blocks away, I'm fine. But she's like, think about what road is connecting. Like these people are going from this place to this place. Like that's not always the most
Yeah.
highest grade of person, and you're walking at 11 p.m. at night. Like,
But now you've got Wallace with you, so it's fine.
yeah, he's
Who's Wallace?
My
The dog.
lab.
The dog.
I
Oh.
think he'll lick them.
So
and
he'll
then-
lick them and you can run.
Yeah. I don't think.
You just need to beat one person or one animal.
Yeah.
You just gotta outrun one.
Yeah.
So I understood you had some police activity here not too long ago, out on the main road, the main drive.
Oh, yeah, we have. Since this COVID thing, since COVID hit, we've had quite a bit of robberies, actually, even throughout the whole valley. We've had, for us, we had we've had quads and spray rigs stolen out of our Canaris properties, chemical sheds broken into down there. So we kind of adapted and moved all of our products home and different things like that. The other night, someone came in and we have, all of our trucks are white, all of our work trucks are white flatbeds, and they stole a 550. and police chase off a Big Ranch Road down Jefferson over Mount Veeder, or Dry Creek first. They blew three tires in Dry Creek, went all the way to Trinity. They blew the other three tires. Then the truck went all the way over to Kenwood with them chasing it, and they did a pit maneuver on it. I mean, they spun out a 550. I laugh. It's not a Prius. I mean, this is a heavy-duty work truck. And then the guy, he was a meth head out of Rio Vista, and we were his third robbery in 2 months. And then they couldn't catch him. He took off running, so their canine unit stopped him. So hopefully he remembers.
Speaking of you listening to the scanner, that one. So there's a Facebook online that has all kind of scanner information and stuff.
We are members.
It's amazing, and it's very well done. And
That's the Corey Edwards
yeah,
one, I
his
think?
is really good. And so
good.
I read it the next day. Once I heard about it, I read the scanner information to my dad, and it's like pretty, just normal, and then reading off numbers. But there comes a point when it's like some of the stuff is hilarious. It's like so and so told the police to stand down. They said no way or something.
Well,
like that.
one of the cops was
so funny.
Baumgartner chasing, and he goes. They told Napa SO back stop pursuit.
Stand down or something.
I'm going all the way.
And then like the next thing, it's like about him running, and then it's like canine, and it's like gonna need medical for canine bite. It's so funny.
Well, Jimmy's gonna be pissed. One of them's like, Jimmy's gonna be pissed.
But that was one of the comments.
The cops told me later on that truck, every color in the rainbow came out of the exhaust. The guy was running it so hard. He drove it all the way down Trinity Road on all
And that's a rough road.
6 rims.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Do you know the one weird thing I thought about though is there was sparks and everything going. If that happens in July or August, how do you stop that guy? I mean, they have to stop him immediately because of fire. Can you imagine that lighting that
That's a
whole
good
mountain?
point.
And it could
Yeah,
happen, no question.
Totally.
They were lucky it happened when it was wet. Because
If
you'd
you're
have a
gonna
giant.
steal a truck, what you're saying is
Do it in the
don't
winter,
do it in the
please.
summer. You're gonna get
do it in
shot.
the summer, and you'll get away with it.
Wow.
So we had that hit us, and then Pina's been robbed a couple of times with welders.
Yeah, we saw it.
Then the other day we had a car come in the driveway, and the other Sunday morning, and the car was pulled over. One of my guys called me and went down, and it was somebody on meth, and they were all methed up, and they crashed, and they had stolen the car 3 days ago, and it still had the stickers on the windows. 2017, great buy. They had the stickers like out of a used car lot still on the windows. The only thing they didn't have was like a ribbon hanging from the back of it, and they drove for 3 days with it. So I don't know. It's kind of getting.
Maybe we need a Stag's Leap police log to add to the St. Helena one.
The police log is pretty. We're fortunate to have a police log like that. We laugh and give thank you, sis, and give a bad time, but kind of nice that we have that.
Yeah, no, it is.
Police stopped a wrong way driver on Highway 29 near Oaknall Ave. Wait, so where were they driving at, I wonder?
Thank God it didn't have a logo of ours on it.
Oh wait, this is the one we're ending that we have to end on.
Okay.
Jimmy, you need to read the 1855 on February 21st.
Okay, Thursday. Okay, in the evening, report of coyote running around Childs Avenue early in the afternoon. Okay, police told caller to keep pets inside and advise neighbors to do the same. Shoot it with a 223 and call us. I mean, it's a coyote, and they call the cops.
It's like a normal occurrence in Po Valley.
And if it doesn't come out of a bush, put your cat in the front yard. It'll come out.
Bait it.
What's funny is
There are a lot of coyotes out. I will say, like walking on the main roads, they're not nervous anymore. They don't care at
Pretty
all.
brazen.
I'm waiting for. Have you seen that meme on Facebook? Like I saw this dog and it looked a little hungry.
Have you seen those, Dad?
I would 100% see someone that's like maybe a summer homeowner or
Yes.
something that they see a coyote and think it's like a dog and they bring it inside.
They'll bring them inside, or they'll trap them and be like, "This dog
Stupid
is really
people.
aggressive."
Yeah.
And they're like, "It's not coming down. It's nervous. It's not that nice. It looks mangy." And you're like, "It's not a dog."
So if we wanted to buy your delicious wine or
Yes,
come
come.
visit you guys, what's the best way to do that?
Online, or you can come on into the tasting room. Right now, just with all the COVID protocols and stuff, just give us a call. You definitely can call and come pick up wine, or call and set up a tasting, or like I said, online. everything's available.
And what's your website?
RegusciWinery.com.
You know what I think though, coming out of COVID like this, when it comes to all the tasting rooms, like we can be open to the public and that type of thing. I would always push to be by reservation, and I think this not reservation only, but the clientele coming in by reservation, I think it's a way better experience for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know who's coming. They come in, hello, John, Kelly, whoever it is. They're greeted, and it makes a better experience all the way around versus the feel of just people coming in, bellying up to a
Stacked up at
bar
a bar,
and
yeah.
I
pouring
would
wine.
100% agree.
You know, and at the end of the day, we've turned into an industry of experiences. You know, look where we live, and we don't, none of us take it for granted. It's a beautiful valley, beautiful product we produce, and it's one of those things where every single winery here enjoys sharing who they are and what they do.
Well, thank you guys.
Well, thank you for having us. I'm
Jimmy,
excited.
Alicia, thank you guys a ton. This was fun. And yeah, thanks for the experience and seeing Noah's Ark up here today.
Well, good deal. Thank you, guys.
Cheers, guys. Thanks so much.
There we go.
Great show.
I hope everybody enjoyed this month's episode. It was pretty cool to see all the history of the Napa Valley and what it took to sustain over all of these years.
Speaking of sustaining throughout the years, or at least the last year, thank you for your support in helping this podcast stay alive.
Feel free to download us on all streaming platforms and find us on Instagram at 91wine Podcast.
And you should definitely rate it 5 stars because apparently that improves our liking in the whole system.
And it just makes us feel better about ourselves. So anyway, we'll see you guys next month.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
2243, you enjoy your evening and be safe.